Welcome to the Word and Journey podcast, conversations with friends about stories that shape us and make us think, and some stories that are just for fun. We're busy people reading books in realistic increments. Follow along in the book and join in the conversation, or just sit back and enjoy. Our aim is to unpack the story and offer you things to ponder. Either way, thanks for being here. Welcome to the Word and Journey podcast, conversations with friends about stories that shape us and make us think and ask us good questions very early in the morning, if not very late at night. Almost never in the middle of the day, because we're just never in the middle of the day. Here we are. I'm Moses, and here with Jake. Jake has AC and I don't, so...
It's kind of nice, not gonna lie.
Yeah, it is nice. So if you notice differences in sound quality or general cohesion, we can maybe blame that today. But we'll
definitely heat, not us.
Right. Yeah, it's the heat. The heat made me do it. I'm going to endeavor a narration because I aspire to be like Jake because he does it really well. And although mine is a very different style, that's okay. So anyway, because I can trust him to fill in valuable details if I forget stuff. Okay, so we concluded Hunters Season 1, the Prime show on Amazon. We will be dropping extremely big spoilers this episode. So again, if you haven't seen the series and you think you might want to see the series first, then listen to our show, because if you watch our show, we will ruin it for you unless if you haven't seen it. So,
like, I'm very flattered that anybody would listen to us before they watch the show, but that's also very foolish. Go watch the show.
I think so. Yeah. Well, I mean, I do that too on review sites. There's a show, Pop Culture Coffee Hour, that I really like, and they do kind of similar movie reviews and stuff. And I find I usually don't watch. I usually don't listen to an episode for a show I haven't seen, just because I don't know what they're talking about. But then if it's for a movie that I want to see, I'll wait, and it's just better. It's the kind of thing that's better if you have this story in common, which maybe could be a tangent on how stories impact relationships, and why stories are important is because we bond over them, and it's lovely to participate in a shared story together. But that we're fast exceeding the scope of our conversation. So episode 8 picks up during the blackouts, which, according to the scrolling notes on the Amazon Prime show, was a real event. Not in my conscious history, because I'm a West Coaster born in the 80s, so would have completely missed it. But I guess there was this actual real event where there was this huge New York blackout, and the whole city broke into a collective riot, and it was really, really devastating. So
I had no idea that was a real event too. My gosh, this show just takes in so much good history.
There's some history, yeah, and I mean a little bit of invented stuff, obviously, but it's historical fiction that's working with some very real events, and like you mentioned, some very real characters. Anyway, so where we left off, the bomb had gone off in the train, and we saw the end of Murray, the glorious explosive end. And so where we're picking up is the funeral, the memorial, or I know there's an actual term for it in Hebrew, and I'm forgetting. But
I don't know what the service is called, but the after where we see Mindy in the house is called the Shiva.
The Shiva, that's the one I was remembering. Yes, which I love that concept of just sitting with people in grief for a long time, and you be quiet until they're ready to talk. That's a really great idea.
Yeah.
So there's this really interesting, the Jewish rabbi character only comes in a little bit, and there's this hinted chemistry between this Jewish rabbi and the Murray character, as Murray is kind of a self-proclaimed atheist, and obviously his wife and his rabbi want him to believe in God again, and you kind of get the sense that he did, or he was open to it, or something redemptive shifted for him right at the end, which is a beautiful moment.
Oh, I was crying throughout like most of the scene between the service and the Shiva.
Oh my
Like I
goodness,
could
yeah,
not stop crying.
yeah. Oh yeah, there's a lot of tear-worthy things. But like the rabbi, he says something like, "How can God exist, especially in times like ours?" And he says, "A man like Murray is the greatest evidence of Hashem." And he talks about how through our self-sacrifice we prove God's reality, which was an interesting thought, and I'm having to stew over that theologically. But it's that sort of thing of Murray did something really wonderful and really noble, tried to anyway, and we all miss him. Jonah, of course, is very broken up over it. He's seeing himself as now responsible for his grandmother's death and for his friend Booty's death and for Murray's death because he could have done something. And so he's, there's this really great scene between Jonah and Meyer where he's torn up and Meyer's trying to comfort him. And Jonah says something like, "Why do the good guys always have to do what's right?" Because he's thinking of like the superheroes. And Meyer says, "They don't," which is building into this theme of this theme that comes out as Meyer's kind of grooming Jonah to take over the hunt. And it's this question that comes out in like the dynamics between Jonah and Meyer and kind of like the triangulation of Jonah, Meyer, and Agent Millie in this question of like what's the right, and Agent Millie's definitely like do what's right, and Meyer's very much like do what's necessary, and Jonah's like there's a flashback scene in episode 8, flashback story where the wolf in the death camps, the wolf had taken Meyer and Ruth out into the woods in the middle of the night and held a gun to Ruth's head and told Meyer, shoot this other innocent Jew to save her. And he does. And then the wolf makes him do it a total of 11 times. And Meyer looks back on that as why he was unworthy of Jonah's Safta. We peek in on our Nazi friends, Chavez and Tobias, as they are doing more business. Chavez is sort of on probation with the colonel. She's upset with him, and Tobias is really gloating over him. There's other historical bit. There's a shot of them purchasing 8 gallons of gas for $14, which, at least in Portland, $14 would still get you more than 2 gallons.
That's true, yeah.
By a little bit.
Yep.
But
about like two and a quarter.
Right. But still, I was like, oh, gas prices. And then Travis kills Tobias, like completely cold blood, just strangles him with the seatbelt. And I mean, it's kind of a good kill, but in the way, I don't know, well executed, but like, I mean, this is the guy that's like just like killing everybody around him.
Right. Yeah.
And almost like this like petulant sort of way. Although he gives some more evidence of his own character arc, as you really get the sense that he's really insecure or seeking something. Like his last words to Tobias are like, "Well, Hitler was 5'9", I'm 5'9.5". Later in this arc, you see with Chavez and the colonel, and she's bothered that her beloved Tobias is dead, and she was expecting Chavez to be the one dead. But then she is referring to the Darwinism, and she says, "Well, the fittest has survived, therefore you will be rewarded." And she does. Like in another scene, there's this whole like initiation ritual. She cuts her wrist, bleeds into the milk. He drinks the milk. She wipes the milk mustache off. And I'm really appreciating, I think it's Greg Austin, the actor's, what he brings to this, because he's this stone cold killer face most of the time, but there's just this total like puppy love, like, really me, energy that he brings into like that moment where like he's like finally getting noticed. And it's like
in this most like awful, horrendous sort of collective.
Oh, completely awful. But then you get a sense though of, well, this is often very broad stereotype. The kind of person that can be drawn to a more fanatical sort of group is people who are missing what they need elsewhere.
Oh yeah. There's This is such an idea of like missing purpose and missing fulfillment, I guess would be a better word. And it's so easy for others to play on that.
Yeah. And so it comes up in the extremist groups. It's also really significant in the trafficking industry too. People who get trafficked are not the securely loved, well-purposed, really, really confident people. It's people who are victims of attachment trauma and another trauma, who don't believe in themselves, who are dearly looking for someone to love and appreciate them. And so here comes this John, there's them who's saying like, "Hey, honey," and that can be the initial hook.
Mm-hmm.
But back to our show. So Sister Harriet, who we still don't know who she is or what side she's on, even by the end. I mean, we kind of get the sense. We just don't know, because she's.
It's so weird. Like I kept thinking, maybe she's back. Maybe she was just doing things her own way, and then we see these interactions with her colleague that's working in a lab.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of that. It's wild. Is she MI6? Is that what's going on here?
That might be a thing. I'm kind of getting the sense she's not actually a nun.
Yes.
Although there's the scene. There's a scene coming up where it's like the nun with the Tommy gun.
Yeah,
which is just like over the top, but really funny. Anyway, but so in this episode, so Harriet and her colleague Patricia, so Hunter plot arc for episode 8 is they're going after a Nazi called the Ghost, and they do eventually find him, and he's like basically already dead. He's dying of a virus, and so they collect blood samples, and through that, that's what Harriet brings to her colleague, and they determine that they have developed a virus that lies dormant for 6 weeks, then explodes like the plague. And in this coming out, Jonah figures out that the whole blackout, which they attributed that to the Nazis, that was all a distraction so that the Nazis could get their Nazi payload in through the borders. But so now we have our season finale stakes. The Nazis are planning this virus, and it's targeted at low-income people and minorities, because it's this was an interesting twist how they figure out they're going to package the virus in corn syrup and dispense it that way, which is hilarious to me, as like a lot of like the people who like are into like extra food health and look for like food conspiracies and everything. Like corn syrup is typically like scapegoated a lot of the time, which it's already really bad for you.
Oh, it totally is.
Yeah, but seeing that just having that now be the agent of something even worse, it was just hilarious to me. But all that to say, so now we have our stakes. There's a scene between Meyer and Simon. Oh, what's his last name? You mentioned
Wiesenthal.
Simon Wiesenthal, who apparently, like you'd point out, was a real figure, and they're
Nazi hunter,
real life Nazi hunter. Yeah, although maybe a little bit more virtuous. In watching their conversation, Meyer has gone to Simon for help finding information on Werner von Braun, who was also a real figure, a real cosmonaut. And you almost get the sense in their talk that Meyer is about being Jewish for the sake of being Jewish, with not really any higher calling than that. God is kind of forgotten there. Simon, though, he is maintaining that engaging in the type of violence that the hunters are doing is what actually they're giving up what makes them Jewish. And he has this great line: "If we follow your path and compromise our morals, what makes us us, then we Jews will eradicate ourselves. We will cease to be Jewish. We will become another creature, golems, perhaps." And so interesting notes on like humanity there. Then he says again, maybe this is the greatest test of all, what we choose to do now. Remember who we were. Remember who we are. And he seems to be re-invoking a lot of what Agent Millie also brings in, the sense of we're faced with these horrors. We need to respond to them. How we respond to them kind of determines like how human or not we will be. But then Meyer, he's still on this kick of, well, in the darkness, I could protect the light. And in darkness, I became the night so that the day would live, is the type of sentiment he has along these lines. So Murray and Millie had their son's killer in the basement. And now Millie has this really sweet grief dream vision where Murray and her son appear to her and kind of I know they're depicted as being together in paradise, and Millie gets to like peek in on them, and they have this really, really, really beautiful moment. And as she's, Murray now ushers her back into the real world, he says, and Aaron wants you to show mercy on the killer, which is interpreted as one shot to the head. So she's like, you deserve so much worse, and so she kills him, which is not exactly where I thought that was going. I thought for a second mercy meant like just letting him go or something.
I feel like that would be problematic.
Right. I was like, but like he's gonna try to kill her, isn't he? And so, but I mean, so there's a way like the ending is a little bit more consistent with the characters. But again, just like this really interesting exploration on like, what is justice versus mercy. Other twist, we discover that Biff, the Nazi in U.S. politics, actually knows Agent Morris's boss, and they were working together, and that's a little bothersome. There's more initiation for Jonah. As Meyer, Joe, and Jonah, they find von Braun. They torture him for the information they need, and Meyer says, let the boy do the torture. It's for the light. And so it's Jonah's first time stepping into the torturer role, and he gets into it to a point where Joe is bothered about that. Anyway, so things like that are going on. Then we get to next episode. So they're determining how to deal with the corn syrup. They determine, well, if we heat it up extra, that'll take care of it. And so then the whole episode becomes kind of the big finale of we're storming the castle or the factory. We're all participating. They get Roxy back into it, and it's this big adventure episode to get in and heat the syrup, blow it up. Lonnie gets to play the part of a Nazi scientist so he can get in. So hey, we finally needed an actor.
I was just so happy in the last episode opening to see that he wasn't dead.
Oh yeah. That was really nice. One of them lived. So Lonnie's alive and pompous as ever. And so in the storming of the castle is where we have the nun with the Tommy gun scene. She shoots a rocket into a truck. The irony scene was where a bunch of the Nazi engineers and creators, they get chopped in a safe room with their own virus, and they're dissolving before our eyes, that sort of thing. Not quite Indiana Jones style, not quite to that level, but
definitely that. I mean, I think at that point the corn syrup was boiling, and so boiling corn syrup dripping onto people. No good at all. So that's exciting, and I'm not going to say too much there because it's just it's a lot of really fun action coordination, like Mission Impossible style. Part of where that culminates is Jonah finally gets a chance to take on Travis, and they have this really cool little fight scene where somehow the untrained boy disarms the killer and gets the gun and is about to shoot him, and then Agent Moore shows up and she's like, no, don't do this. This is not justice. And then Travis will say, no, this is not about justice. It's about survival. And then he has this little diatribe around, again, the Darwinism about survival of the fittest and everything. And he's like, this is what Darwin believed. Which one of us was meant to eradicate the other? Because apparently that's the spirit of evolution and survival of the fittest, is we can't coexist with people who are different or are lesser in any way. One has to always be destroying the other. And so Jonah makes the call at that moment to let him go so they can arrest him. Then we cut to the colonel was escaping all of the fray. She's one of the few that escaped, but she escaped into a limo that was driven by Meyer. And as soon as she discovers that, there's this moment where they recognize each other, and you can almost miss it. Looking back, you can realize, oh, now I know why. But Oh, I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So she has a secret weapon. So she like shoots at him, and he like drives her car off the bridge, and that's the way this episode ends. Next episode picks up. Turns out Sister Harriet was nearby, so she was able to like jump in and like rescue Meyer. And we find he survived, but he's very, very badly wounded. We think the Colonel is dead because we didn't pull her out. And so then episode 10 becomes kind of a softer conclusion, a lot more character things going on, just wrapping up the storyline. So Biff, he goes, he manages to escape. Oh, I forgot a thing. So in episode 9 was so one of the fun things. I think this is episode 9. Yeah. So Agent Morris finally confronts her boss about his antics, and then it turns out Biff is there, and so she has to, and so she basically like corners them both, and she completely is boss over them, and
It was awesome.
It was pretty awesome. She just dominates the Nazi, which is great. But anyway, he manages to escape her, and Biff manages. He escapes to Russia. Travis ends up in prison, but while he's in prison, he's now starting to preach the Nazi gospel and start an uprising. And there's a scene where he like kills his own lawyer in full view of everyone as like a human sacrifice gesture, and everybody's cheering for him.
Oh, it was messed up. And like his parents visit at one point, and it seems like his parents have no idea this is going on, and they're totally aghast.
Right. And the dad's
and plays like insane to get the lawyer. And
yeah, like really brilliant acting and really brilliant manipulation, and just like really, really disturbing. Anyway, like we said, we still don't know who Harriet is, who she's working for. Joe ends up getting captured by the Colonel, who somehow is still alive in Argentina, and apparently Hitler is also there.
Yeah, just nonchalantly. That's how the episode ends, is with just like we find out that the Colonel is Ava Braun, Hitler's wife, and then Hitler just like walks out into this garden, and that's where the episode ended. And you just see this beautiful shot of his mustache. That was it. That's the only part of it that you see other than his back.
Really well done shot. Yeah. Roxy's alive and Lonnie's alive, and they're still up for the hunt. Mindy's gone to move with the grandkids. Millie missed her mom's death. Memory eternal. There's this one scene where she tries to bargain with Chavez for more information, but that doesn't work out. She goes through a hearing at work, but they don't really believe her, which is predictable enough. But then some other random Jewish woman politician shows up on her doorstep and says, "Hey, I have I'm also part of the hunt, a little bit more legal. Would you do this with me?" And so that's now in there. Most pressing though, so there's this really touching scene toward the beginning where Jonah is caring for Meyer as he's convalescing, and Meyer said, is talking about who he's like, I thought it was going to be you who take the hunt. He's like, Harriet is too impulsive, Lonnie is too daft, Roxy is too idealistic, Joe is too haunted, Mindy is too beleaguered, but you. And then the idea is like he wanted Jonah to take over, and there's this very like father and son sort of moment there. But Meyer's disappointed because Jonah hasn't done what it takes. He's disappointed that he let Chavez live. And so then Jonah says he basically takes it upon himself to find the wolf. And so he raids his grandmother's notes and letters, and there's flashback scene of when Meyer and Ruth escaped the death camps, and Meyer was really broken up about all that he had done. And Meyer tells the story in the flashback that it's Jonah is reading his grandmother's reflection on something Meyer said like way back when, where he said like we need to pray a particular prayer over this monster before we kill him, and so as to not become monstrous like him, that sort of thing. And so Jonah finds who he thinks is the wolf and brings him to Meyer, and Meyer kills him because he's a Nazi surgeon, but then he doesn't say the prayer. And through that, Jonah puts a bunch of pieces together and discerns, oh, wow, Meyer is the wolf. And this guy that I thought was this Jewish leader of the hunt is actually the Nazi that did all this torture back when. And he, got his face changed and changed his name and like jumped into Jewish culture and everything. And so then that ends with, you know, Jonah killing Meyer and then taking over the hunt. So that was the twist of twists, is that who we thought was the good guy actually was the bad guy we were hunting all along. And he was just hiding with us and is really disconcerting to the characters. So
Yeah.
and that's that's our episode. That's our series. Conclude narration.
What a wild like 3 episodes, especially like the last episode was just twist after twist after twist after twist. Like we get to find out a little bit more about some of the secret stuff that Harriet's working with. Like they may be, I'm wondering if they're like a rival Nazi thing or if this is, it was a weird thing to say. So Harriet gets on the phone and informs this group that the colonel is dead, because Harriet doesn't know that the colonel's alive down in Argentina. And there's this like kind of eerie line, the queen is dead, long live the queen, which normally signals a change in leadership. Like that's what you say when the old monarch dies. So like, are they a rival Aryan group or a Nazi thing? Or is it just something weird they said because they're MI6 or British, or I don't know. And the interesting thing on the line too is like the person on the phone line calls her Rebecca, doesn't call her Harriet. Like there's so much going on, and they apparently have plans for Jonah.
Yeah, they have plans to use the hunters, Jonah in particular, for their own ends, and that's really interesting. But at the same time, like Harriet is helping the hunters, even risking her own life to save them. I mean, and she saved Meyer, so she had no idea who he really was either. So
right.
Really, really, really interesting twists. Really great characters. I love these characters.
So well written. There was part of like the scenes with Meyer and Jonah at the very end where Jonah finds out who Meyer really is and all of this. And, you know, Meyer, or the wolf, really pulls up like all of these sorts of, well, I became Jewish, and, you know, saying that he was just given too much power, and that's why he became evil. Like power breeds evil, which there's a lot of stuff around that, but it just kept like feeling like excuses, and just like it felt very convenient, even plot wise. But I like Jonah actually calls him out on it, where it's like in many other series, it feels like this is where the characters would take a turn from their normal character line or plot line, and so this was a really good scene. The whole 3 episodes were really good.
They were all really good. I would say this whole series was really good. So if one is not dissuaded by excessive violence and likes history and Jewish Nazi history, then you might like it. You might like it a lot. Although I don't know. Again, this is my from my vantage point as being neither Jewish nor Aryan, and just like watching all of this as like happening a long time ago, wondering like, I mean, is that just like a little bit over the top? Like all of these like Nazi people and like what they did, is that? I mean, that can't be real. That can't be real, right? Can't be real. I mean, like there's parts of me that are really tempted to lean that way, and I know it was real. It just is mind-boggling how real that could be.
It's insane. Like this is definitely, you know, I guess what we could call historical fiction, but there's a lot of history that they pull on. Like, I think what was it, episode 9 opens with the panel of like J. Edgar Hoover. I think not Carter, but an FDR maybe. Forget who was president after the end of World War II. Oh, that might be Eisenhower. Anyways, the president, a few other like leaders within the United States talking around this panel, and it really does show like the Americans didn't care about the Jews at all, not American leadership, anyways, I should say. And so they're talking about like bringing these Nazis over, and this all was historically accurate too. Like we brought the Nazis over and really didn't care that much about what they did to the Jews, because people didn't like the Jews, which is a whole other thing that's insane. And again, it feels so cartoonish, like just the amount of hatred that people had for different groups. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. But that shit did happen. Like we had we had a chance to save the Jews before the war happened, which is a whole other thing. Like there was a whole call between FDR and Hitler, and FDR is like, well, we don't want them. So Hitler just kind of went on and did what he did. And yeah,
it's bothersome. And it's bothersome. I think that's where like this quote, all that evil needs to succeed in the world is for good men to do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember who said that. If it was like Dietrich Bonhoeffer or like Roosevelt or someone. So quiz for the listener. Who said that quote? let us know.
Yeah. Did I say call? I think correspondence would be better. I think
maybe so.
I don't know that they really had cross international phone lines. Yeah,
they like Facebook friends, messenger buddies.
Yes, they sent each other snaps,
carrier pigeons.
Yes,
across the pond. But there was a theme from everything leading up to the Holocaust. Is like a lot of nations, ours included, really just turned an indifferent eye toward what was going on. Mm-hmm. And like in a really consumerist, distraction heavy culture, it's really easy to just turn a blind eye, and not even necessarily out of like malicious intent, and not even specifically out of like racism, anti-Semitism necessarily. Just be like, I'm consumed with my own life. I don't have room for yours.
Mm-hmm.
So blessed are the undistracted, because they might be a little bit more self-aware.
We can hope. Yeah.
So I'll branch us into a theme. So looking at Meyer the wolf. A lot of what he says is all of the lengths he went to become Meyer. I mean, he was already obsessed with him in the German death camp, and following that, stole his identity, but like got plastic surgery, learned Hebrew, read the Torah, went to services, like learned to be Jewish, learned to be Meyer. Mm-hmm. And then up to the point where, and granted, there's a flashback scene where Ruth, Jonas Safta, finally reconnects with him after 30 years. She thought Meyer abandoned her. Turns out he was murdered. But the wolf character from that encounter is inspired to start the hunt, and he looks at the hunt as like this penance, redemptive sort of thing. And so the question that this raises for me is, well, did he change? Did the wolf? And I'm trying to think what would even be the most appropriate word. Like did the wolf convert? Did he repent? Like, did something? Mm-hmm. Did he change as a person, become a better person? I mean, it's not specifically our place to say whether he absolved himself, because that's right. That's something only God can do. But I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
It feels like a redemption arc, but in a really icky way. Like, did you really redemption still, it typically implies some sort of consequence. And like this character just really didn't live through the consequence part of it, I guess. Like, he became this very rich, affluent man after becoming Jewish, quote unquote. And even the hunt, like you can tell throughout so much of the series, especially the interactions between Travis and Tobias, but between a lot of the different camp, the Nazis really don't have much love for each other. Like, they don't really bat too much of an eye about killing each other off. And so again, this just doesn't feel, and I don't think it was meant to, but it doesn't feel like a good redemptive arc. Like, it feels rotten kind of from the inside.
It does, but I'm wondering, do we only say that because he was a Nazi?
It's fair. I mean, that's a pretty big, it's a pretty big thing to be a Nazi.
Yeah.
And so maybe there's that. I don't know. To me, it feels more than that. Like, assuming a life and assuming a culture which you persecuted so much, not out of hiding, basically, is how this all starts. And then, there's this apparent change of heart and whatever. Like, there's still not that drive to accept the consequence of actions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm casting about for a comparative reference. First one I'm coming up with that might work, but might not, is King Nebuchadnezzar in the Old Testament, who if my Bible history recalls, destroyed Jerusalem, and basically, and he initiated like the Babylonian captivity. So like that day's equivalent of like the Holocaust, and didn't seem to have any consequences from it. And through like a series of Bible stories with him and Holy Prophet Daniel, minimally came to give praise to the Most High God.
Sure.
Was that conversion for him? Was he now in paradise? Could we recognize him as like, saintly in any way? Who knows? God knows. But in that case, but I don't know. I mean, we could look at that because it was a similar sort of thing where it would have been like toward the end of his life where he would have had a change of heart and been open to considering that, like, oh yeah, maybe I was wrong. Maybe there is something to this Jewish God here. But we don't demonize Nebuchadnezzar, even though he also slaughtered thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah. And is it that we don't hold that to the same standard, and that's like that was a good thing, or is it that like there's a whole lot of stuff with Nebuchadnezzar that we just kind of wash over because it's like, well, yay, it's a nice ending to the story. Like, I was kind of thinking, as any good Christian boy does, applying a parallel to Paul as well. Like it's a very similar, though he didn't slaughter millions. He was at very least, and there's some contention around this, but at very least present at and approving of the murder of Christians. Whether or not he did it, that's kind of semantics at that point. But like then Paul goes through this whole conversion, does all these great things, writes most of the New Testament as we know it. Like there's a lot of that, but we can also see a little bit in his writings that Paul seemed to submit himself to the consequence. Now, whether or not those consequences actually came to fruition, that's another question. But it's like the submission to the consequence is part of the redemption arc that we definitely don't see with Meyer. But I mean, even kind of Nebuchadnezzar. Granted, there's a lot of stuff in older style writings, ancient writings, that's just really difficult to parse. On whether or not like we have the full view of it. It's so easy to just take these small snippets and act like it's the whole thing. But like we still see consequence throughout Nebuchadnezzar's life. Like he is pretty well consequenced, disciplined. That's the word I'm looking for. I think Nebuchadnezzar was the one God caused to go crazy and go out into the pasture and eat like a cow.
Yeah, he had insanity for 7 periods of time, whether that was 7 days, 7 weeks, 7 years. But yeah, there was consequence on top of and
that was not willing submission, I think, which is a whole other thing. But I think that's what makes this particular quote unquote redemption arc feel so disharmonious is that lack of a submission to consequence, in my opinion.
I can see that where we the observer would not want to see it celebrated as character redemption, because he doesn't willingly submit to a consequence. Yeah, but then so branching like out of biblical references back into like characters. So Darth Vader, the blood of billions on his hands. I mean, again, not specifically anti-Semitic violence. So like, although
we're still looking at slaughter on a massive scale. Yeah. Side note: have you seen Obi-Wan yet?
No, don't spoil.
So good. Okay. I will not say anything. It's just really good.
Okay, I'll go see it. But yeah, well, and within like Star Wars lore, like the Empire is depicted as not specifically Nazi-ish, but very, very, very white supremacist.
Very much.
In their case, human supremacist. But
yes,
and so a lot of what they do is in that vein of like purifying the galaxy. But then in Return of the Jedi, Darth Vader he has this like kind of like repentance conversion moment where he saves Luke, he kills the Emperor, and we celebrate it. We love him for that. We say, hey, yeah, the bad guy finally came around and did something right. One thing right at the end. That was his one heroic moment, and we don't bat an eye. And then so So I guess I'm wondering, okay, so here's this Meyer character who, again, not just did the hunt, but became Jewish, like got to know, here's the prayers, he's not necessarily like a spiritual man out of it necessarily, but he's now working to hunt down the people he was once allied with and undermine their work. And
Mhm.
so I don't know. It does feel like kind of icky, like the way he got there.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm kind of tempted to think like he might have actually like been on his road to becoming kind of a decent fellow.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know. And I mean, like this, of course, in the caveat, and this is all fiction anyway here, but like the caveat of like none of us can judge somebody else's redemption of it. Just like, and we're seeing a lot more of like the internals than I would with a normal person, right? It's just yeah. I like that the show leaves space kind of to meditate on that, like nothing here is nice and clean and black and white. And Myers, the wolf's story is very much that.
Yeah, I think that needs to be more than a caveat. That needs to be like more centered, the way that we can't judge people and we don't know what's going on in people's hearts and lives, and it's not our place.
Right.
Maybe a couple of us folks like legally have the role of executing justice like within a legal context, but that's still not getting to comment on the state of a person's soul,
Right.
or anything. We can say yes, fine, yes, prison time, yes, death penalty if that is applicable. Yeah, saying a person's evil or not. We can't do that. So then this connects to kind of the corresponding arc of Jonah's character, who now confronted with, here's this man that I thought was my grandfather. Turns out he killed my grandfather, and he's this Nazi who is like been giving me hugs all this time.
Right. That's got to feel really icky.
I could imagine so. Like, again, completely different lens and everything. So then we can look at Jonah's choice to kill him, which I think is, if I'm remembering the story right, this is Jonah's first kill, I think, because he tortured Von Braun, but didn't actually kill him.
Did he kill one of the other Nazis in the earlier? Oh, look at us being bad podcast hosts. I am not sure. I thought he had killed one of the Nazis by accident or something.
Maybe. My memory says he might have. Even so, though, it would have been casual firefight. It would have been like unnamed face in like a firefight or like by accident or something.
Right.
But this is his this is his first like deliberate execution style kill. And it's a fairly involved one. Like he shoots the old man in the shoulder and then stabs him in the heart and like gets right up close to him to do it. He says the prayer. So that was kind of a nice touch, but then he goes through with it. So then, yeah, just kind of watching. So was this a good move for Jonah? And we can judge fictional characters because they're fictional characters and we want to judge somebody. But yeah, it's this, is this justice? Is this vengeance? Do we have a right to mete out this kind of penalty? Should Jonah have, what was he right to say, hey, this is a Nazi, this Nazi needs to die, he is a Nazi, he is nothing but a Nazi, he is inherently Nazi and cannot be anything but Nazi? Or should we have, and we can say this in the show, should he have seen, hey, there's something different about this man now, or he is no longer Nazi, or, and this is where we get into like questions of identity, like he did a bunch of Nazi things, but he is not currently being Nazi because he's not participating in Nazi beliefs, Nazi actions, Nazi practices. He's being Jewish through his actions and through his current intentions and everything. And so, and for me, that makes it feel like a muddled thing. Like again, like not a hero arc, not like in like any given like Marvel movie where like the hero like vanquishes the villain, and or like in, I don't know, the Spider-Man movie where Peter Parker finally kills Mysterio. Like there's a sense of like, yeah, Mysterio's he's a douche and he needs to die, and we're kind of like it's clean, and we're kind of glad that Tom Holland does that. But the hero arc in Huntress also doesn't feel completely pure either, because there's a sense of like, well, like he wasn't purely evil anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, it's again that just dissonant sort of plotline that I really love. Nothing has really nice, tight knots at the end, emotionally or even plot wise, right? Like there's a lot of just, well, this thing over here kind of still didn't happen, and it didn't happen the way that we expect, so now you have to deal with it. And then at the same time, like the emotional, just like nothing feels like it's fitting into place nicely.
I would agree, and I agree. I love that sort of story for the complexity, and I wonder about that
in our real lives,
right? Yes, real healthy people make for bad drama, because they have no drama.
It's true. Yeah, it's like it's so hard in real life to deal with these more dissonant feelings. Like, and when I say dissonant, I don't mean like bad. I mean you're looking at two things that feel like they should be very paradoxical, or feel like they should be opposites, and yet somehow that's, you're feeling this, or you're looking at this, whatever, and seeing those both. And that happens so much in life that we don't really want to admit, I think. And there's a whole line of potential reasoning down into that. Like, that's a really long rabbit hole. But it's just, it's something that as we grow, hopefully we can begin to take in mind. Yeah, nothing is always as clean as what it's made to be out on TV, and I'm really glad that this series really shows that.
I'm glad too. It shows a lot of the darkness, a lot of the dark potential with people, and definitely what we need to struggle against. And again, the way this is written, there's some glimmers of hope as well. Watching like Murray and Mindy's story, there's a hint of, hey, we're moving through our grief, and we're moving past our thirst for vengeance and bloodlust to where we can be content with a clean shot to the head.
Yeah.
Maybe that's like a harm reduction approach to healing. Or Agent Morris too. She's, I love her character as being able to represent the good, or being able to represent like the virtue or the ideal, and not in a Pollyanna-ish, like ignorant sort of way. I mean, she's a Black lesbian woman in the 70s. Like, she has a really hard life and has like every reason to be like really, really bitter and full of rage. I mean, sure, she's got some anger, but she's the one who's able to kind of see, no, there's still a right in this, and it is still good to pursue the right. Not everybody is just like given over to bloodlust and passion and rage.
Yeah, like in the Dungeons and Dragons alignment chart, she's definitely our lawful good character.
Yeah, I love that chart. And let's see, if she's lawful good, Biff would just be chaotic evil, I guess.
I don't know. Maybe chaotic neutral. I feel like Travis is chaotic evil, or excuse me, neutral evil for our friend Biff.
Oh, just because he's like kind of mostly just like out to like save his own skin.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and Travis is more overtly like, I want to kill people, and I want to like bring the Fourth Reich.
Yeah, and the weird, just psychopathic tendencies that we see between the chainsaw scene and like his interactions with Tobias right before that, his interactions with Agent Morris, all of the things.
Yeah, you really get the sense with him that he has no remorse, and like any empathy, like gentle feelings, he's just disconnected himself from those. Yeah. There's a way. What was it? Something in this was reminding me of this whole riff, which we may not fully have time to like tangent on this one, but the sense of like removing our humanity from ourselves. I might have to drop that one because it was a thought. It came up, and it came up a little bit in the show, but I'm at this point forgetting specifically what parts of the show brought that out. But there was kind of this feel of in some of the characters you get to see. Well, again, I'm invoking more orthodox thought around growth, where we either if we're either participating with the Most High God and the Lord Jesus in the works of theosis, and we're participating in the works of holiness and becoming more holy through that, or we're participating in the works of the devil and becoming more like him in that way. And there's a sense of like nothing being neutral and everything being process and trajectory. And so it really matters what you do, because you become like the things that you do. You become like the thing that you worship more and more. And so you have to be really careful.
Right.
That's the thought I need to develop a little bit more. Probably should have developed a little bit more before I go on live.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. There's a lot of parallels with that.
Anyway, that's a fun show. I hope season 2 is not on Prime. I'm a little sad about that. But
no, I think they're filming it right now.
Oh, okay, cool. That would be good, because I'd love to see it, because I like these characters and I want to.
Good.
Yeah,
and I want to see what happens with Hitler. Like,
right.
This show is wonderfully over the top. I feel like they do a pretty good job of balancing all of the craziness. Like, in between episodes, sometimes it feels like the tone changes a little bit. Like we had this very Quentin Tarantino thing up front, and then we kind of tapered that off. But then to end with freaking Hitler and Ava Brown as like your final closing shot, that's fun over the top. And I really enjoy it. Like, I hope it gets a lot of stuff like that in season 2.
Mm-hmm. That was a good example of surprising yet inevitable.
Yeah.
Which I know, like,
you kind of knew that Hitler had to make an appearance in this series.
Or it fits very well within the tone and the direction of what the story is doing and where it's going. I didn't expect that at all, but it was also like, oh, I'm okay with that surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Meyer is actually the Nazi wolf. That was
the bigger one for me.
Surprising, not inevitable, and but also, like, once it was explained, not entirely implausible either.
Oh yeah.
So,
like, they've done a really good job of any of the twists they've had or any surprises. It doesn't generally feel out of left field, or it doesn't feel like just a plot device or something. This congresswoman showing up and recruiting Agent Morris, I think, is the most convenient plot line that I've seen in the series. Yeah.
Which, again, doesn't feel completely like implausible for the story, but it is a little bit like, kind of a little contrived for that.
Yeah.
Let's see. What could be completely out of left field? Bonnie and Harriet hooking up. No, that's inevitable. Or if we say we discover Harriet is actually like Jonah's mom or something.
Oh my gosh, that would be insane.
That
would be a bit too much.
That would be a bit too much. Do you have any final thoughts on this season of the show?
It's all so good. Go watch. I sincerely hope you have watched it before you have listened to us, because we've just completely spoiled all of the things. Really great series. Super glad about it. Like I said, I just really love the dirtiness of the plot line and the dirtiness of the emotions that you feel for many of the characters. Yeah, really, really solid series.
Yeah, with a really great soundtrack too. Great soundtrack. There's bell bottoms. There's 70s style clothing everywhere. Great cars and good action. The action's not over the top either. Like, they're like kind of realistic fight scenes, which that's always nice. I'm a little bit of a fight scene snob.
Oh, I enjoy a good fight scene.
I like a good fight scene, but like looking for like the ones that are like actually kind of realistic and not just all flash. Yeah, that is really nice. Anyway, well, we're gonna wrap up there, and I hope you, the listener, tune back in more and more. Also, please like and review the show, share it around, tell your friends, leave us a review, or can subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/MosesBarnaby, because that's me and it's my show. And I need dollars if I want to keep doing it. So please help. Anyway.
Sweet.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Word and Journey is a podcast by Moses Barnaby. If you like what you hear, consider supporting the show with dollars, reviews, or shares, or all of the above. Word and Journey can be found on most major podcast platforms and on my author Patreon at patreon.com/MosesBarnaby. Moses Barnaby can be found at mosesbarnaby.com. Contact info for my most excellent co-hosts can be found in the liner notes. The podcast logo was designed by TJ Todd, with additional development by Moses Barnaby. The theme music is by Aaron Esparza. This episode was mastered by Breakfast Puppies. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.